Alright, today we're going to talk about section 2.1, properties of numbers. And what this is I'm going to give you a bunch of different properties that you can use when you're solving expressions and when you're solving sentences. The first one we're going to talk about is the commutative property of addition and multiplication. And what that means is that you are going to that you can change the order of the numbers you are adding or multiplying, and it does not change the sum or product. Remember, sum is the answer when we're adding, product is the answer when we're multiplying. That's why we're talking about the properties of addition and multiplication. On this side over here, we have addition, and on this side over here, we have examples of multiplication. And those are the commutative properties. So what that means is that 6 plus 4 is the same as 4 plus 6. 6 plus 4 is 10, and that is the same as 4 plus 6, which is also 10. Just an expression or a sentence that you can use for any number is a plus b is the same as b plus a. It doesn't matter what order you write it in because you are going to get the same answer. Please excuse my dog drinking in the background. Then for multiplication, we have the same thing. 9 times 5. That little star symbol means multiplying. So 9 times 5 is 45. And 5 times 9 is also 45. Okay, so that just means we can say 9 times 5 is the same as 5 times 9. 1 times 3 is the same as 3 times 1. It doesn't matter the order we do them in. And then again on the bottom down here, we just have an expression that we can use for any number. A times B is the same as B times A. Anytime throughout this video, if you see something that you don't understand, just please go back and watch it again. You can pause and move around the video as you please. We're going to move on to the next slide here. And the next slide is the associative property of addition and multiplication. Again, we have addition on this side, multiplication is on this side. So what this property says is that changing grouping of values you are adding or multiplying does not change the sum, which is the addition answer, or the product, which is the multiplication answer. It does not change the answer. So for over here on the left side, I can do 2 plus 7 is 9, plus 3 more. 9 plus 3 is 12. Oops, let me get my marker out here. Is 12. And that is the same as if I were to do 7 plus 3 first and get a 10. Add a 2 in there, I would also get a 12. So in this situation, it doesn't matter if I do 2 plus 7 first, or if I do 7 plus 3 first, my answer will be 12 either way. And then again below that, we have the number sentence, A plus B in parentheses plus a C is the same as A plus the sum of B and C. So that just means we can move our parentheses around as long as every single operation is an addition sign. Then on the right side over here, we have our associative property of multiplication. So let's test it out to make sure it really works. 9 times 4 is 36 times 5. Let's do it over here. 36 times 5. 6 times 5 is 30. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 3 more is 18. So my answer is 180. Then if I go over here and I do 4 times 5 first, I would get 20 times 9. Let's make sure. 20 times 9. 9 times 0 is 0. 2 times 9 is 180. 180 equals 180. So if every single sign is a multiplication sign, it does not matter which two numbers I multiply together first. And again, below we have our the product of A and B times C is the same as A times the product of BC. It is just any number, as long as it's all multiplying in that whole sentence, we can do, doesn't matter which one we do first. Alright, and that's the associative property of addition and multiplication. We'll do some examples at the end, so you don't have to get too worried. Just make sure you get all this down. And next we have the identity property of addition and multiplication. And the identity property of addition states that the sum, which again is our answer of a addition problem, of any number in 0 is the original number, which is just, again, this is the addition side, this is the multiplication side. That just means 12 plus 0 is always going to be 12. A plus 0 is always going to be A. Sorry for the little period sign, that's not supposed to be there. So just any number plus 0 is always going to be that original number. Then the identity property of multiplication just says that the product of any number and 1 is the original number. So again, 10 times 1 is 10. 12 times 1 is 12. 123.5 times 1 is 123.5. A times 1 is A. Okay, so anything times 1 is going to be the original number, and anything plus 0 is going to be the original number. This is the identity property, and what that means is it's always going to be the original number. That can help you remember if it's anything and the answer is the same as the original number, we know it's going to be the identity property. Alright, now let's do some examples. So the first section in your book says use the associative property to write two different expressions that you could use to find each sum. And it says add 1, 3, and 25. So all that means, if you go back to the associative property, it says that changing the grouping of the values you are adding or multiplying does not change the sum or product. In this case, we are doing sum. Okay, so all I have to do is 1 plus 3 plus 25. I can put my grouping symbols there, and I can do 1 plus 3 plus 25, put my grouping symbols around here. In both cases, here I get 4 plus 25 equals 29. Here I get 28 plus 1 equals 29. It doesn't matter where my grouping symbols are, as long as, well, it doesn't matter as long as every single operation is an addition sign, which in this case it's telling us to add, so we know that will be the case. There's just one more problem like this on your homework, so this should be pretty easy for you to do on your own. Then the next section says name each property shown. So 5 times 7 equals 7 times 5. That one, if you go back to your original notes, we know that that is the commutative property. So we're going to write commutative property of multiplication. Make sure. I can hear all of you asking me already, do we have to write of multiplication? Yes, you do, because the commutative property of multiplication is different than the commutative property of addition. So you do need to write of multiplication. Then the next question says, C times 1 equals C. This one I'm thinking right back, the original answer. So I know that is going to be the identity property of, look back, it's multiplying, so it's going to be the identity property of multiplication. Boom, we're done. The next one says 7 plus A equals A plus 7. If I look back, that looks a lot like the first one I did, except for I'm not multiplying, I am adding. So it is going to be the commutative property addition, because this time we are adding. Then the last one says 5 times the product of x and y equals 5x times y. So that one, if I look back in my notes, is the second one we talked about, where it doesn't matter where our grouping symbols are, as long as all of the operation signs are either adding or multiplying, and that is the associative. Associative property. Then we say, are we adding or are we multiplying? We are multiplying, so it would be of multiplication. So the associative property of multiplication. So again, we just have to use those notes that we took and really make sure we're looking at them and using our own numbers and figuring out what property we're using. All right, now let's go to the last slide to go over a few how to simplify the expressions. All right, on this one it says use mental math to simplify each expression. I do not expect you to know that 7 times 25 is a number, 300. I don't expect you to know that. But, so this is what I'm going to ask you to do. 3 times 4, 12. I added them, not multiplied them. 3 times 4 is 12 times 25. You can still go through, it says mental math, but again, you can still go through and figure it out. So 25 times 12, 10, 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 more is 5. Add my 0, bring down my 5. 2 times 1 is 2. 0, 0, 3. My answer is 300. Then I would put a box around it. Again, if you just showed me that 25 times 12 was 300, I would question, did you do the work yourself? Did you just pop it into the calculator? I want you to not be using a calculator on this one. I want you to be using your brain to figure out these questions. Then the next one says, be very careful and make sure you're listening, because you're going to think it's subtracting 5, but it's multiplying by a negative 5. 3 times 1 times negative 5 times 8. So does it matter which one I do first? No, it does not. And what property tells me that? It would be the associative property. This time we don't have any grouping symbols, but I could add some in, and it doesn't matter which ones I do first. So just because I like the order of operations, I'm going to start on the left and do 3 times 1, which I know is 3. Then bring down everything else, times negative 5 times 8. 3 times a negative 5. They're opposite signs, so I know my answer is going to be negative. So it is a negative 15 times 8. Negative 15 times 8. I don't know 15 times 8 in my head, so I'm going to do a little scratch work. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 4 more is 12. So my answer should be 120. Positive or negative? It should be negative, because negative 15 and a positive 8 have opposite signs. So it should be a negative 120. Alright, now the next one is a little bit tricky, so please pay very close attention. I'm going to start off by doing 5 times 9 is 45. Again, because of the associative property, it doesn't matter which one I do first, I just can pick. Then I'm going to bring down times 6, and then I'm going to multiply negative 2 times negative 1, because I can do that really quick in my head. They both have the same signs, they're both negatives, so I know my answer is going to be a positive number. 2 times 1 is 2, so I'm going to be left with 45 times 6 times 2. 6 times 2 is 12. Remember, doesn't matter which one we do first, because they are all multiplying. So I'm left with 45 times 12. Don't know how to do that in my head, so I'm going to do a little scratch work. 45 times 12, get a 10. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 more is 9, add a 0. 5 times 1 is 5, 4 times 1 is 4. When I add that all together, I get a 0. 9 times 5 is 14. 9 plus 5 is 14. 1 plus 4 is 5. My answer is a positive 540. Alright, that's all the examples that I have for you today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask on Edmodo or ask in class whenever you need to. And I will talk to you later.